question is for both of you. How did you both enter the music composition field before you two worked together?
After you?
Oh, man. Well, I was producing and writing pop music mostly, and I was always interested in trailer music. It was always just kind of cool sounding, and I was always interested in scores. So I hadn't really written any, but I enjoyed it. And I got a call from a friend to, try my hand at some trailer music and some television scoring, and I really took to it and really enjoyed it. So it was kind of a trial by fire, like just go and do it. I figured it out as I went along.
I really cut my teeth in scoring, doing documentary scores. That's kind of where that was the testing ground, the starting ground for me. And this is years ago, like right after I was in music school, and I had interning and stuff like that, and then I kind of got the opportunity to start doing some documentary scores, and that's kind of where my scoring, even though I had a big love of scores and orchestral music in general, my first opportunities were in documentaries, and then from there it went on to TV scores and a couple of movies, and it just kind of graduated into more fully fledged scoring opportunities. And I actually had the same situation as Michael in that I had an opportunity to try my hand at trailer music and kind of get trained in that field, and that sort of led me to trailer music as well, along with, because we still do a lot of TV shows and other things like that too. So it's become part of the arsenal, so to speak.
I know Kaveh and I both had early success in the initial pieces we wrote for trailer music through other outlets. So it kind of was a quick affirmation, like, oh, this is something we should be doing. And it was also like, I can do this because, it just came out. And now I'm seeing it. I remember one conversation we had. This was really early in developing Full Tilt.
That's 2004 is when
development started. Because we worked for a full year before, at least a full year before it came out. And I remember you asking, how much orchestral stuff do you actually want to write? Because we hadn't really mapped out everything we were going to do. Right. And then we ended up just basically, all right, you write half and I'll write half. But me coming from sort of a pop production world, I think early on, the heavier orchestral stuff like the thriller and the drama stuff, aside from the action, which we split, those thriller and dramas was mostly you, and the rock industrial stuff was mostly me. But as the library has evolved, now it's really becoming like 50-50, and I think for the most part it's difficult to tell apart who wrote what in most of the pieces.
A defining aspect of the Full Tilt series is its ability to present well-composed rock electronic hybrids. And so was this niche for Full Tilt planned?
I think it evolved.
Yeah,
because but it wasn't really our intention to do a rock industrial angle, and I don't really think that the Full Tilt is really rock industrial centric. I think though it's one of the things that we do particularly well, and maybe the other libraries haven't focused on. I haven't really thought about that much.
Yeah, I think the two different perspectives at play here, the backgrounds, is what really made the evolution of that type of music in Full Tilt unique. It really, as Michael said, I don't think it was ever planned, but the fact that he came from a different background, and when he crosses over to orchestral, he has a very unique take on writing that type of music. And the same thing, me coming from an orchestral background, when I do rock or whatever, I think it's a very unique take. And it's those perspectives that I think have created this thing that we don't find very often out in the industry.
For instance, like on a Q Hellbent, which is in the Transformers campaign, that was really interesting because that started as a completely orchestral cue that Kaveh had wrote. That was like dark and evil orchestral thing, and then we got together, and together we added live drums, and I added guitars to it, and then ultimately we ended up adding more orchestra and choir on top of that. So I think it was just kind of a cool sort of relationship of how like he brings his thing, I bring my thing, and it really just meshes really well. And
absolutely.
We don't have to force it, and we don't really have to think about it that much. We
Yeah.
just kind of bring what we do to it.
Yeah.
You guys said you came from different backgrounds and you had to make the crossover to trailer music. Could you tell me a little bit about how that crossover, how difficult that, if it was difficult, that crossover was? Or
I think in the beginning it really wasn't difficult because I think everyone has an idea of what trailer music is, and you know, if you're a musician, what you would like the trailer music to sound like. So, you know, the first couple shots are really easy. You're like, hey man, I've been thinking about this for 10 years. I'm gonna just knock this out. It's when you're now writing like, okay, I've written 50 action pieces and now I'm gonna write 51. That, you know, it gets a little more difficult.
Yeah, I would say on top of that though that I think that trailer music as a whole is a sensibility, and I think that being a good or great composer doesn't necessarily mean that someone has the sensibility for trailer music. And I don't mean that in an arrogant way. I mean it in the sense that trailer music, I think, is a unique formulaic type of music. And I think that maybe those who are currently involved in the trailer industry found that they have that sensibility. Because again, just writing even great film music doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work in the context of a trailer, and that really comes down to the sensibility of it all. So I think if the sensibility is there, it's far less of a it's far less difficult to cross over into this world. Whereas, as with anything, if you want to write, you know, I don't know, 20th century symphonic music and you don't have the sensibility, it's going to be an uphill battle to do that as well. So I think it really just depends on that.
That's true. Also, you know, there's been some very successful trailer music that was sort of not really even listenable on its own. You know, one of the things we like to do is to try and keep a musicality to it so that, you know, we could enjoy listening to it because that's what we find fun about it. So, yeah, I agree.
Okay.
so how has the industry changed since you first started scoring trailer music, if it has?
I don't know if it has.
Yeah.
Trends change, for sure. Trends change. You'll see musical trends. Obviously, you know, this sort of big orchestral, gothic choir action piece has sort of become ubiquitous in the industry. It's sort of a standard go-to shot for the big summer blockbuster or whatever. But I think as far as like drama and thriller and, you know, what we were talking about earlier, which is sort of like the hybrid rock stuff that we do, I think those trends have changed, and we're going to probably continue to see those things change over the years as music itself evolves and new things are introduced. And I think with the, you know, companies like ours, we're fortunate in the sense that we're able to sort of guide the trend a little bit. You know, we can bring something that maybe is new or hasn't been done, or is an experiment even, and see how it catches on, and before you know it, you know, it's changed a particular path in the industry.
Fantastic.
I wasn't going to triple that.
It's gorgeous.
It didn't need to be overbearing.
There's no point in tripling.